Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third breakout session. I'd like to introduce our topic for this session, which is cultural competence. And our presenter is Mr. Gerald Cobb. He's an implementation professional at NC State University. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to him. Thanks.
Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon. Just a quick thumbs up. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, first off, I just want to say good afternoon to everyone. I'm excited and I'm definitely thrilled to be here and be a part of the CRC summer sessions. Looks like it definitely has been an impactful day for all the members and all the sessions and all the content that has been provided. And I'm just overwhelmed with excitement just to add to the content and all the sessions that's been delivered today. So it looks as if the track with the sessions earlier with leadership, financial sessions, also looks like most of the cohort was transitioning out of the emotional boot camp. So, now kind of just soliciting some of those topics and kind of now adding to the suite of information, we're just going to kind of take some time to look at the topic of cultural competence. And then as we continue to look at these topics, of course, be able to provide you some takeaways as you guys continue to move through the sessions. So what I'll do now is go ahead and present the material, and we'll go through a few topics and items as we kick off and get started. We have, of course, the chat available for any type of questions or any type of dialogue or anything that needs to be added. We definitely want this session to be interactive and definitely want to be here to engage and be able to present the materials accordingly. Great, awesome. Okay, everyone should see the home page for the session, cultural competence. We're going to just move right into the afternoon welcome. I'm sure you guys are well versed with all of the Zoom and virtual type of classroom norms and etiquettes. Of course, the mute, unmute, of course, the chat function is there. We will be monitoring the chat real time, so please feel free to add any type of information, any questions, any additional information. Definitely intend for this session to be interactive. In addition to that, of course, the participant view, we'll definitely keep a check in there. Any type of specific questions, please feel free to fill those directly to Katie, and we'll be sure to solution and be able to get you some type of responses to anything that comes up during the session. Of course, the raise the hand function, active listening, of course, taking your assumptions, being respectful, of course, maintaining confidentiality, because we do want to have productive dialogue, share information, and have productive discussions, okay? So once again, looking at cultural competence as it's defined, once again, the National Education Association defines cultural competence in that following manner. I apologize. It says cultural competence is having an awareness of one's own culture and identity and views about differences and the ability to learn and build on varying cultural and community norms of students and their families. It's the ability to understand the differences and to make the things that make each student and individuals unique, while celebrating, once again, the between group variations that make up our community, our country, and that build out our global footprint. What I like to do is take these terms and simply put, I would like to say, essentially, it is cultural competence is the ability to understand and interact effectively with people from other cultures, simply put, okay? Within the space of, academia and looking at different type of classroom demographics, I was able to pull a case study, and it was actually really a good article that I found that actually spoke to a professor that actually went out and conducted his own individual study and published the results in regards to building out his own awareness for cultural competence. What was great about this professor is that this individual professor by the name of Mr. Hall, he was able to understand that meaningful and authentic relationships with the students would foster an environment, not just for the students be able to learn and grow, but also for himself to learn and grow from his students when they felt that they were supported, they felt that they can be truly authentic. Secondly, it was interesting because as the professor was very intentional about building out the cultural competence awareness within himself, he understood that being able to kind of, solicit the authentic information via his students and make them more a part of the learning experience, more of a communal affair. It actually worked to broaden out the actual learning experience, not just for the students, but for faculty and himself as well. I think this is a great article that kind of expounds out on, what environments look like when, everyone feels like they have a voice at the table and everyone feels that they are truly received for their initial orientation. So this is a great piece here. So anyone that definitely wants to take a look, I'll definitely provide additional resources to take a deeper dive into that information. Okay. So now looking at the next piece, when you're looking at developing and kind of developing out the cultural competence, there's 4 key components: your awareness, your attitude, as well as the knowledge and skill. This is essentially summarized with the aspect of once you begin to integrate all of these functions. Yep. Give me just one moment here. Okay, perfect. So once we're able to begin and integrate all 4 components into your day-to-day behaviors, of course, your degree of cultural competence will increase dramatically. That's definitely the hope and the goal. Being aware of your internal learning biases, having an attitude that reflects a desire to deeply understand your own behavior, showing a high degree of knowledge of the subject of implementing the skills of cultural competency. It says you will soon move from the realm of theory and learning to an active practice. And essentially, that's what we all hopefully want to continue to grow and continue to support and champion as the end result. As the world becomes more global and culturally diverse, the needs for a high degree of cultural competence, of course, will only grow. Developing your own cultural competence and literacy will help you become more effective, of course, in your work and as well, hopefully, in our daily lives. Okay. So once again, we'll be looking and taking a deeper dive into these 4 components in regards to awareness, the attitude, the knowledge, and the skill that are essentially great pieces that are a part of developing and building out that cultural competence. Okay, great. So looking at awareness. So when you actually take the time to think about awareness, I guess as of now, just take the time to kind of just reflect intrinsically of who you are individually and things that make up your individual perspective. Things that intrinsically we look at from a implicit or explicit bias perspective. What we want to do is just kind of internalize those thoughts as we're kind of moving through some of these key pieces. So as stated, when you're looking at self-examination of one's own biases towards other cultures and an in-depth exploration on one's cultural and professional background is what we want to do. Of course, recognizing aspects of your own identity that forms your lens of knowing and understanding your own culture, as well as all knowing that other things exist within other cultures as well. We want to reflect on the reactions to an interpretation of people who are of a culture or a background significantly different from yours. So this is where I like to always, liken and champion being present. What I like to always, remind myself, as well as being a father of 2, is that I like to, always pride myself on being present. Try to be present. So therefore I can eliminate as many distractions as possible and truly, put myself so I can receive and be utilized to, the best of my ability to understand and meet the individual exactly, or the persons exactly where they are. And by doing that, of course, that's going to eliminate and you'll be able to recognize prejudices and stereotypes that, of course, can create barriers for learning and personal development. So what I like to always, like I said, pride myself on doing is allowing myself to, once again, be receptive, allow myself to be present, so therefore I can truly understand if there are cultural differences and how I can allow myself to be willing to receive and be proactive enough to understand the cultural differences that potentially exist. Okay. Of course, the next key component is your attitude. As we know, once again, I was always raised with the statement that they say, check your attitude at the door. So I was always like, okay, well, sure. But that is also a great statement, because you want to make sure you also take a self-reflection to ensure that you're ready to receive what is there. And you also want to have the right energy and the right attitude as you're going into different cultural environments. So as we kind of look at the behavior and what do we individually value, what do we believe in, the triggers that kind of, set our attitude as we're going into different type of cultural engagements in different environments. Of course, exploration of these values, belief systems, phobias, and also adhering to individuals' cultural norms and how things are, of course, impacted cross-culturally and how effective these things are. So once again, just kind of being aware, which is, of course, the first key component, and being able to understand and be receptive to the cultural environments that we potentially find ourselves in and we are a part of. So once we are aware of these the key components, we can then once again look at ourselves intrinsically and ensure that we're putting ourselves in the best position to broaden out our cultural competence. Once again, they said analysis of the extent of which we are open to different views and opinions. The more we cling to these, the more likely we will experience cross-cultural challenges when they collide and we have differences. So just making sure that we kind of do a self-inventory when we're kind of, encountering things that are different within different cultures will also bridge the gap to ensure that things can potentially move forward, in building out that cultural competence. Having the knowledge. What do you know about others? What internal steps are we taking to put ourselves to broaden out our knowledge? I want to commend everyone for being a part of CRC. These are the steps and these are the individual initiatives that build out the template for the awareness and the attitude and the knowledge and what actually allows us to grow culturally competent by just allowing ourselves to seek out additional knowledge. The more knowledge we have about people of different cultures, as they state, the more likely we're able to avoid cross-cultural missteps. Knowing how culture impacts problem solving, managing people, asking for help, can keep us all connected to cross-cultural interactions as individuals as well as throughout our organization. A little piece here I like to also refer to, it says that the research into human behavior has shown that our values and beliefs about equality may not line up exactly with our actual behaviors. And then it says we often are unaware as to the degree of differences between our own beliefs and our actions. It says it's been shown that people who may test well in regard to having low prejudice may in fact have great prejudice when actually interacting with other cultures. Understanding the disconnect is why knowledge is considered a key aspect when you're on your road and your path for developing one's own cultural competence. I would like to highlight here, I recently went through a opportunity to go through what's considered to be an IDI inventory. So that's an intercultural developmental inventory assessment, which looks exactly at these things. It looks at, things that are considered to be unconscious versus, well, it looks at unconscious biases, but it also kind of takes a deeper dive and it kind of classifies the biases into subject orientations. So what it does, it measures your perception in regards to, exactly how you perceive your own individual orientation. And then it also measures within a developmental orientation, exactly what the results are based on a series of canned questions. And what's great about this, of course, there's no, exact matrix or exact algorithm that lines up all the answers, but it is great to have at least a little bit of a roadmap in regards to exactly how you perceive things from a cultural perspective. And then, of course, looking at some of the alignment with the developmental things that could also be that you're just unconsciously unaware of. So when you look at the perceptions versus the developmental, and then of course the ultimate goal is to bring these things closely aligned. And then once they are truly closely aligned, what they say is that you fully have, put yourself in an adaptative state of cultural competence. Okay. So I have some resources here, of course, that I will provide at the end of the session. And definitely the IDI is definitely a great resource for building out the skill set as well as information as a resource for cultural competence. Okay. Looking at the skill, looking at what it takes to implement, looking at how do you interact directly with others, taking practices of cultural competence and repeating them until they become second nature, essentially until they become so ingrained to where now it's a part of your individual profile. Daily behaviors. Of course, this includes, but is not limited to, having, excellent grasp of effective and respectful communication as we're now building out additional social norms, as things continue to grow, as we continue to evolve as a society. And overall, with these key pieces to allow us to level set and be able to and be receptive to differences throughout different cultures, as we're able to feel these things, it will definitely allow us to take a strong grasp on things that, guess what, can move us forward in bridging and building those bridges to build out that cultural footprint. Okay. Of course, we have to have the right attitude anytime we go into anything that is personal initiatives, self-motivation, individual intrinsic drive. Looking at these things as far as like considerable self-awareness. This is a lot of knowledge about cultural differences, yet still lack the ability of effectively managing differences, right? It says if we have not learned skills with little opportunity, so, being able to grasp information, I've always been a firm believer of that. As I started out my professional career, just as an individual first time working, first jobs, it was always about, as they say, OJT, on the job training. So being able to, take something that you recently acquired in regards to a new piece of skill set or knowledge and being able to instantly apply that. So therefore you can, see how the implementation, of this new acquired skill set and actually see it and put it in action. And then, of course, the more opportunities, you have, and the more opportunities we have to build out that awareness, of course, it becomes, as stated before, second nature. And now that awareness has broadened, and now you're moving forward in regards to bridging, and adding to that cultural competence. Yep. Okay. All right. So at this point, what I would like to do, based on some of the terms and based on some of the key components, we can actually take a look. I have an actual video here that I would like to show and present. And of course, it's entitled, Do Not or Don't Put People in Boxes. What I would like to do is actually present and show the video. And then after the video, just bring everyone back, of course. And then maybe we can just have some discussion and maybe just some views in regards to the context, and then potentially look at some breakout sessions just where there can be some potential interaction, some takeaways, and then kind of look at, just the overall assessment of the information that's about to be presented. Okay, so just bear with me one moment, and the next thing you'll see is don't put people in boxes.
It's so easy to place people in boxes, drawing lines, creating sides. There's us, and there's them. Those we feel comfortable around, and those we don't. There are those of us with many chapters, and those just starting their own stories. There's the well-to-do, and those doing what they can. There are those we share something with, and those we don't seem to share anything with.
Welcome, and thank you for coming today, guys. Today I'm going to be conducting an experiment where I'll ask you a series of questions. Now, these questions will be very personal questions, and for us to get a true result, I need you to be completely honest with how you respond. The first question I have is, who in here was the class clown? Who is never on time?
And then there's us. We who have tattoos. We who feel lonely. We who have been bullied. We who have bullied others. We who are madly in love. We who have overcome great adversity. And there's the lucky ones, whose team won the championship this year. We who beat cancer. And then there's all of us.
Okay, great. So it looks like we definitely have, let me look in the chat. Oh, perfect. Here it is. Awesome. When I actually, absolutely, Will, Marilyn, Tamika, Jennifer, I definitely appreciate you guys providing that in the chat, because I had the same type of feeling when I actually sourced that resource. I thought that was a great way to kind of just put a little bit more context to, just, overall, just how we sometimes have way more in common. And when it comes from a cultural, awareness perspective, as we continue to forge the path to just continue to allow ourselves to be open and receptive, these are the things that can come out of this, the type of, initiative. So with that being stated, what to give folks an opportunity to kind of maybe have their own individual discussions, maybe kind of just, take a quick moment to discuss, maybe some of the takeaways, maybe some of those impactful pieces. I would definitely like to allocate that time for you guys to hopefully take the opportunity to have that. And then once we'll come back and see if, anyone wants to share some of the discussion out of the sessions, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, I'll assign people to breakout rooms. It just might take a few minutes. You should see a pop-up on your screen and just accept and you'll be put in the room.
Perfect, thanks.
And Gerald, you can let me know when you want people to come back.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for coming back, and hopefully there was some great discussion and interaction in regards to the video. Of course, I always want to allocate time. I know within the group that I kind of had a chance to peek into. There was some great interaction in regards to, just some great takeaways in regards to just being reminded that, sometimes we can quickly stereotype certain individuals and with certain experiences. So just allowing ourselves to be reminded that once again, we have way more in common once we actually allow ourselves to be receptive and be able to allow ourselves to have the ability to take opportunities to build out the opportunity for dialogue with different individuals. So I definitely want to commend the group that was speaking on those topics. Anything else out there that anyone would like to share? I would definitely want to allocate some time to do so. If not, I'll go ahead and continue moving forward in the next piece, which is going to be kind of tying all of the elements together with looking at the actual dimensions of cultural competence. And once again, these are just, inception pieces of the cultural competence build out, which of course this work is ongoing. So as we continue to take some of these key pieces, hopefully, the intrinsic and internal, work kind of starts taking place. And then once again, we can move forward with once again, seeing how this benefits not just the individual, but communities, country and culture and everyone. So now going right into the dimensions of cultural competence, we look at it from 4 individual pillars. We're looking at it from a structural, institutional, as well as an interpersonal individual perspective, okay? So when we're looking at the structural framework, at the structural level, the cultural competence is reflected in an awareness of relationships between social expectations about knowledge and values and the public policies and practices that shape, define, and limit both what is accepted and allowed and how individuals and groups have access to those opportunities. So while traveling, anytime you have opportunity to travel to new destinations and new areas, as safely as possible, try to put yourself in a position where you can truly allow yourself to immerse yourself into the opportunities for the different individuals, groups, and culture. From an institutional level, what we want to do is look at cultural compliance as it reflects and looking at the understandings of the way that social institutions, our family, church, media, all the things that we liaison with, help shape and reinforce the social norms and expectations related to sharing knowledge and values, understanding of the way social institutions, and cultural issues have an impact on historical factors. The ability to engage thoughtfully, of course, in productive dialogue and conversations, as well as contributing to and the things that contribute to these historical, factors and things that are out there. So as we look at things from an institutional perspective, it's now a time to potentially, have respectful, positive dialogue. So therefore, these different things can be shared, and the differing and the impact of these individuals and groups is relative to the respective of the social positioning and identities within, our community. Okay. From an interpersonal perspective, at that level of cultural competence is this reflecting on the awareness and in the ways that we can, think, achieve, and believe and appreciate that the diversity in thought and belief and the ability to engage effectively and respectively with others will continue to allow us to grow. And I think those are great takeaways and great pieces as we continue to forge our path with cultural competence. And of course, on the individual level. So, from an individual perspective, cultural competence is a reflection and understanding of one's own values and how those values influence your thoughts and your actions. So essentially looking at the components of cultural competence as it's defined, which is how we actually show up within different communities and how we show up in different, environments and opportunities that we have. And when we look at cultural competence as a definition, we understand the four key components, allowing ourselves to have an awareness of the environment that we're in, allow us to, intrinsically look at our own attitudes and how we approach these environments and these situational opportunities. And then, of course, having the knowledge, what are we doing to broaden out the opportunities to build the things that are required, so therefore we can grow our skill set for implementing and also broadening out the cultural competence. And with that being stated, we can take those things, of course, and then, of course, align those to the dimensions within the structural, institutional, interpersonal, and individual components. So hopefully with the time that we have, and hopefully with the information that was shared, this can just kind of also be some additional things within your toolkit that you've been able to acquire throughout the CRC summer sessions. And I just want to also display that the resources here that were used towards throughout this presentation. Of course, there's some great TED Talks out there in regards to cultural competence, the IDI inventory, a great repository for information as well as resources. Of course, within the university, the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity within NC State also is a great location for resources. So once again, anything that can allow us to broaden out the opportunities to implement our knowledge, our skill sets, and just continue to champion what's best for everyone and build out the cultural competence is definitely what we're all about and what we strive to do. I want to once again thank everyone for joining the session this afternoon. Once again, the content will be provided if anyone wants to go back and take a look and just kind of take some of these key takeaways. And if there's any additional information, definitely let us know. And any additional chats, let me check the chat here really quickly. All right. And I think we're right at the top of the hour. So I want to once again thank everyone for joining the session. Please let us know what additional we can do, and I look forward to you. You guys have a great afternoon, okay?